All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Rosh, and you are viewing FM3 Basics. This is a tutorial series I'm putting together to help all you guys out there program the Fractal Audio Systems FM3. So a little about myself. Once again, my name is Rosh, and I'm an LA-based guitar player and guitar tech. I build and program a lot of guitar rigs for a lot of different clients. Some of my clients include Steve Vai, Leppard, Melissa Etheridge, Perfect Circle, Bush, and more. So as hopefully the pandemic comes to an end, or at least the end is in sight, many of us are getting back out there and starting to play live again, starting to tour. And I wanted to put this tutorial series together to help show some strategies and some tips and tricks on how to program the FM3. If you take a look on my YouTube channel, you can also see a previous video series I put together called FX3 Basics. A lot of those tips and tricks can also apply to the FM3, so make sure you check that out on this YouTube channel or at axfxbasics.com, and you can view some other tutorials for the FM3 here or at fm3basics.com. So this preset is going to cover how to, some strategies on how to level your presets out so that they're all a uniform volume, or if you need a volume boost or you need a volume cut, depending on the section of a song that you're in. Let's say maybe you want to boost for the volume, when it gets to the guitar solo or something. So I'm going to show a couple different strategies on how to do that. So in a previous video, I built basically this preset that has 3 scenes in it, and it's a clean, a crunch, and a rhythm scene. And so we got a clean sound right here. And then we got a crunch sound. And then we got a rhythm guitar sound, which is kind of like a rock sound. So, nothing to it. Right now they're all leveled out, in a decent, they're more or less uniform volume. So I just want to show a couple different strategies on how to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reset all the channels in here. So we're going to go to this block. We're going to reset the channel. And what's going to happen is it'll keep the same amp type, but it'll just set all the knobs back to noon. So I'm going to reset the matchbox as well. And let's reset the channel. And then last but not least, we're going to reset the channel on the Marshall Plexi. And I'm resetting the channel there. So again, if you didn't see my previous video, no problem. So what's happening is in scene 1, the clean scene, we're using this deluxe reverb impulse response cabinet. In scene 2, we're going to be using this matchbox, 57 and 121, which is, basically the matchless. Very similar to a Vox. And then last but not least, we're going to use this Marshall with an M25 in there. And so, all right. So if we go back to the first clean sound right here, obviously, since the knobs are set at noon, it's not even going to sound like a clean amp. Okay. So first, the first thing you want to do is just get the tones where you want them. So if we're going to use this as a clean sound, you want to make sure the tone's exactly where you want it. Don't worry about the volume yet. So if you ever play a real deluxe reverb, usually the knob, it starts breaking up around, maybe the knob set here. And you can use this headroom parameter to kind of see where the breakup's going to happen. See, it's pretty much at the threshold right there. Now, if I dig in, it starts breaking up. I'm using a Strat with a humbucker pickup. So depending on how clean you want that tone, maybe we can even go here. So it doesn't, break up too much. Okay, we'll worry about the volume in a second. Now let's go to scene number 2. And again, same thing. All the knobs are set at noon or whatever their defaults are. So this matchless Vox kind of sound. Probably a little too much gain for where I want it. And it's probably pretty dark. So I'm going to, raise the treble. It's a little woofy on the low end. So I might cut the bass a little bit, maybe add a little more gain back. And then this high cut knob is basically like a reverse presence knob. So as you raise it, it's going to kind of cut that extra high end. Okay, so again, my strategy is I'm just getting the tone where I want it. Okay, it's pretty good for a crunch sound. All right, last but not least, we're going to go with a Plexi jump. This has 2 gain knobs. With most Plexis, the treble drive adds gain, but it's the high end part of the gain. The normal drive kind of adds the woofy low end and some gain. So I tend to cut this, and I tend to cut the bass because it gets a little woofy in the low end. Because if you keep these at noon, it's going to get really like flubby. Okay, so we're going to drop that. We're going to add more gain there, drop the bass. I'm going to add the mid and the treble. Obviously, you can hear that this amp is much louder than the other 2. Maybe add some presence. Okay, great. So I got all 3 of the tones kind of where I want them. And again, this is less of a tone video and more of a preset leveling video. So by all means, you may want to, when you're adjusting your own presets, obviously get the tone exactly where you want with your guitars, your playing style, and of course, what style of music you're playing. Okay, great. We got a clean sound. We got a crunch sound. Maybe a little more gain. Okay, and then we got our Marshall. Okay, so obviously they are nowhere near the same volume. So strategy number 1 is I go to the output block and I make sure I try to get all the amps right around here. Okay, so this is basically 0 dB. So obviously this needs to come up, and I'll just go in the level, not the master volume if your amp actually has one. I don't use that. I just use the level parameter, and I try to just get close. Okay, it's going to be very guitar dependent, of course, and how hard you pick and strum depending on the style of music you're playing, etc. Oops. We want -8. Okay, so then we're going to go to the next amp. Probably need to raise that about 5 dB, so that's about -7. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, and last but not least, we'll go to the Marshall, and it's probably going to be louder than this. Yeah, so we're going to pull the volume back on that just a hair. And then now we have, the preset more or less leveled out. And, you want to make sure that you are monitoring this at a pretty, loud volume, because, if you're listening on headphones really quietly, it's going to, obviously you're going to have a misconception of how loud you're actually playing and how loud the presets are. So I'm monitoring right now through studio monitors. So at a relatively loud volume, nothing ear shattering, but just loud enough that if I was playing with, a loud band or something, I could have an accurate sense of how loud each scene in my preset is. So that's strategy number 1. Let's talk about strategy number 2. You can do the same thing using the tools, and then there is preset leveling. Okay, so it's going to bring up this dialog box, and the cool thing is it's exactly what we're doing in the previous thing, in the previous section, but it just makes all the knobs really handy right here, so you can see where your outputs are going and where the amp level is. So for example, when you default all the presets when you reset the channels, they all default to, just -12 for the level. Okay, so we'll just set those back to wherever it was. I'm not really paying attention to where the number was. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring up this preset leveling, and then we're going to go through the same process again. So we'll start with scene number 1, and then let's bring that preset leveling back up. Where'd you go? There we go. And you can see the same thing. You can see where the output is going, and then all you have to do is turn this knob up. And the cool thing is if you click it and use the up arrow on your keyboard, you can increment it by 1 dB at a time. That's great. Now we'll go to scene 2. Bring that again. And it's bringing it up outside of where the video is recording, of course, but that's okay. So again, you can either use your mouse and just drag this up, or select the actual knob and just use the up and down arrows on your keyboard to get it where you want it. So bring that up again. Awesome. Okay. And then last but not least, we'll go to scene 3. And then we'll play. Obviously, this needs to get quieter, so we'll click. And now we have the presets leveled out. So that is strategy number 2. Number 1 and number 2 are basically the same thing. Just depends on whether you want to keep clicking back and forth between the output 1 block or use this preset leveling feature. This will also show you if what's coming in and out of output 2. If you're splitting into, a powered cabinet on stage or something, using, but going to front of house with output 1, but using a power amp and a powered cabinet, or power amp and a traditional guitar cabinet, or some other output, you can also check there. All right. So let's talk about strategy number 3. Now that you got your presets leveled out, let's say with your amps, there could also be some situations where you like the amp tone, but you need it to either be quieter or louder in a certain section. So for example, let's say this song that we're playing, we're using the same guitar tone, but we're going to have a section in the song that's going to be for like a guitar solo. Okay. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go into scene 3, and let's just say we want to use this exact same tone, but it's just going to be a guitar solo. Obviously, we want the guitar tone to be a little bit louder. We want it to, cut through the mix a little bit. So I'm going to copy this current scene, which is scene 3, and I'm going to copy it to scene 4. And so it's going to make an exact carbon copy in scene 4, even down to the name. Let's just call this solo. All right, so we're using the same exact tone between scene 3 and scene 4 right now. And here's scene 3. But we want the guitar solo to be a little bit louder. So in a previous video in my FX3 Basics, I talk about using the filter block. You can, of course, do that. That is not a problem. But, you may run into some situations, which I'll talk about in a sec. What you can do is click on the output block and go to the scene levels parameter right here. Now, this is a really, really useful way to level out your presets without changing the amp block or the guitar tone. So since the amp block only has 4 channels, but we have 8 scenes in every preset, you may make a preset that is, the form of a specific song, and you want to use the same tone, but maybe bring the volume up or down in certain sections. So since we're on scene 4, and we want to use the same guitar tone as scene 3, but we want it to be louder, scene 4, you can just bump up maybe 2 or 3 dB right here. And this scene 3, and scene 4 use the exact same tone, no effects, any difference, but they are going, the scene 4 will be a little bit louder than scene 3. So here is scene 3. And when we go to scene 4, it's going to get a 2 dB volume boost. And then, so you can, of course, adjust this however loud or quiet you need in the scene level. And then let's just say, hypothetically, after the guitar solo, we're going to drop back into maybe a bridge, or maybe a breakdown of a song where it gets really quiet. And so what if we want to use the same tone as scene 1, which is our clean sound, but we want it to be quieter? Okay, so you can't, if you adjust the level of the amp block, then it's going to affect your clean sound, and it's also going to affect the sound that you would use in the breakdown section. So that's going to be a big problem because you need two independent volume controls. You can, of course, put a filter block here and adjust and all that kind of stuff, but you can also take advantage of this scene levels. So for example, in the scene levels, let's just copy, scene 1 to scene 5. So we're going to copy it to scene 5. So it uses the same exact settings, same exact tone. And then now in scene 5, we'll just call this breakdown. That would come after, this hypothetical guitar solo. And let's just say we want this section to be quieter, but use the same tone. So right here, I'm dropping the volume of scene 5 down 3 decibels, but using the exact same tone as scene 1 right here. So the only thing that's different between these two scenes is the actual volume. So here is scene 1, which is our clean scene. And then we go to the breakdown. Okay, it's subtle, but again, it just depends on how much you drop the volume. If we do something really drastic, like of course, 8 dB, you can definitely hear that. So this is another effective way to level out your scenes, especially if you're making a preset that is going to follow some specific song. This is a really great way to make sure that you're just adjusting the levels whatever way you see fit. This can really help when you have effects that affect the volume of the amp. So a lot of clean amps, for example, if you use a drive pedal like a clean boost, it'll actually increase the volume of the amp. So for example, if we use something like the esoteric ACB as a clean boost, here is the amp without it. Here's the amp with it on. Oops. Let's turn that on, and this clean boost on. It actually makes the amp louder. So again, if you have a certain scene where you have a clean boost into this amp, you love the tone, but you don't want to mess with this level parameter, use the scene levels instead. So scene 1 can be your clean sound, and then scene 2 can be the same clean sound with this overdrive on, but you can just bring the volume down just a hair to level those two tones out without having to adjust the amp block. Okay, that is a really easy way to do things. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys have any questions, by all means, feel free to leave a comment below. If you have any other topics you would like me to cover or discuss, I would be happy to. So leave a comment below, or feel free to reach out to me at axeffectsbasics.com, as well as fm3basics.com. You can reach out to me there. You can reach out to me here in the comment section. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.